Hey everyone, I'm Ann. Welcome to the Let's Get Naked podcast, where we dive deep into vulnerability. In this space, we'll explore what triggers us, uncover the patterns holding us back, and discover how to take charge of our own growth. If you're ready to dig in, be vulnerable, and face the tough stuff, then buckle up. It's time to get naked. No one prepares you for what happens when the identity you built your life around stops saving you. So you do what you were trained to do: self-override. A lot of men are walking around in pain: physical pain, emotional pain, identity pain. And instead of listening, they just push harder, lift heavier, grind more, drink it down, white-knuckle through it. We've been taught that toughness is the answer, but toughness without awareness is just self-destruction in a nicer outfit. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Winning doesn't protect you from burnout. Success doesn't protect you from collapse. And being the strong one doesn't save you, it isolates you. Chronic pain isn't always a body problem. Addiction isn't always about substances. And burnout isn't a motivation issue. A lot of the times, it's a nervous system that's been in fight or flight for decades with no off switch. And when force stops working, when the helmet comes off, the roll ends, the body breaks, or the noise gets too loud, you're left with one option: get honest, or lose yourself completely. Today's conversation is for the men who were never taught how to feel without falling apart, for the ones who confuse control with safety, for the ones who learned early that being human wasn't allowed. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's a survival skill. Today I'm stripping it all off with Brandon Day, former All-American linebacker, two-time national champion, and walking proof that winning doesn't protect you from burnout, pain, or a full-blown identity meltdown. When brute force stopped working, he did the most unlinebacker thing possible. He got honest, learned how his brain actually works, and rebuilt his life from the inside out. He's now a father of triplets, a coach, and someone who believes vulnerability is a survival skill, not a weakness. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Yeah, it's
Glad to be
lovely to
here.
have you. Thank you. So I'm excited about our conversation today because I always get excited when I have a man that's willing to come on and talk about just vulnerability in general. You know, that's a pretty exciting topic for me. Obviously, I've based an entire show around it and kind of made that my life's mission. But yeah, so maybe you can just kind of set us up a little bit by a little bit of history about, you know, what your ages of growing up looked like and
Sure.
kind of how you got to where you are, and then we'll dive in from there.
Sure. Yeah. I grew up in the woods of Montana.
Mm.
So, the picture that some people get in their mind of a lumberjack in the backwoods chopping wood and shoveling snow and hunting for our food, those are all absolutely true. We had a wood stove growing up, and I chopped wood and I carried that wood, and that's how we heated our house. And um, so in that and kind of environment, a lot of the other ideas that come about from that around vulnerability and masculinity and all of that were kind of true as well. I grew up in an environment and a culture that really um, celebrated strength, and strength was doing the hard thing and never complaining, and crying was not allowed.
Mm.
And the ideas about what it means to be a man and to be strong were very much rooted in that um, hard life that a lot of my ancestors grew up and thrived in many ways,
Mhm.
right? But I also played sports for my entire life, and I really excelled at sports, and football was kind of my jam. I loved football for many reasons. Um, I was good at it, so that helped, right? I was getting some recognition there. And when my parents got divorced when I was 11, I really threw myself headfirst into sports because it was an outlet and it was where I was getting admiration,
Mhm.
and it allowed me to not think about or deal with what was going on at home because that was painful.
Mhm.
And so I went headfirst into it, and I had great success. Um, Part of the reason I love football so much and I chose football to play in college was because it was a violent sport. And I was an angry, angry young man for a lot of reasons that I didn't understand, but it was a great outlet for that. I could go smash my head against other people and maybe sometimes actually hurt them,
Mhm.
which made me feel better about me, right?
Mhm.
So this kind of pattern, and then of not dealing with my emotions or even recognizing or allowing them into my awareness and just taking it out on everyone else on the field. It worked for a while. But I also was experiencing chronic pain throughout my entire career as well. From high school age on, I had bad knees, bad ankles, hurt my neck a few times. I had a bad back. And I say these words intentionally because bad knees, but those are all just excuses. That's
Mhm.
not true, right? Nobody's got bad knees, right? Um, it was just a deeper issue going on that I didn't understand yet. But um, it all kind of essentially came to a head when I lost my outlet. When I, experienced all this success and well, actually, by the way, on the chronic pain front, like that's where the masking started to come in, right? Not only was I using substances, um, alcohol, cannabis, and anything else I could get my hands on to numb the physical pain, but also the emotional pain and everything else. It all came to a head after I lost my outlet, which was sports. And I saw great success, like you said, a couple
Mhm.
national championships as an All American. I even made it on the cover of Sports Illustrated,
Mhm.
which is a wild, wild thing to happen for somebody from a small town in Montana that plays at a small school that doesn't have the media attention or the endowments of these big universities. It's very unexpected,
Mhm.
right? And so that kind of thrust me into a little bit of a spotlight too,
Mhm.
which you'd think would be awesome. But it really, sometimes I say that the brightest light casts the darkest shadow. And for me, it just kind of brought to the surface more of those insecurities that I had around my self worth and um, just not feeling like I deserved that recognition.
Mhm.
And I played it off for the longest time, saying I was just lucky and all this stuff. And while there is maybe a small amount of luck in there, but I don't actually believe that anymore. I think I manifested that shit. And
Absolutely.
I can show you the Photoshop Sports Illustrated covers from high school that would prove it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so this has been a lot of growth work to get to that point.
Yes, that's
But
excellent, though. It's excellent that you realize that.
yeah, but back then when football ended, I was left with chronic pain, a lot of mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and a brain that was frankly broken.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand it. I had no idea what was going on. So all I knew is that I liked to perform and I wanted that feeling back. And so I went into acting and producing film, and that didn't help things. It was a wonderful experience. I loved every minute of it. And it taught me a lot about building a business, managing people, um, how to pull off something like that, which is a monumental task to actually get a film together and actually complete it and get it out to people. But it didn't help with what was going on really under the surface. I was still abusing substances to numb myself or to feel anything,
Yes.
right? So pretty quickly, after a few years of film, I moved to LA with my producing partners, and we were kind of chasing that dream. And I woke up one day on a deflated air mattress. Couldn't afford a pack of cigarettes, and I had no job. And I was like, "What am I doing?
Mhm.
Like, this is." My actual thought at that point was, "I don't deserve to live, and people would be better off if I
Mhm.
was just gone
Mhm.
because I'm just a drain on everybody." And I I toyed around with that thought for a minute,
Mhm.
and then something snapped in my brain. And I was like, the actual voice, the actual voice said, fuck you. Don't be a bitch. Get up and fix your life.
Mm.
And it wasn't my voice. It was like an amalgamation of all my coaches and mentors, and my dad
Yeah.
and the people in my life that really loved me.
Mhm.
They were there. Even the people that weren't around anymore. My grandfather,
Mhm.
like it was all them in one. Like gives me chills to think about it because
Yeah.
it wasn't coming from me.
Right.
That was something else.
Well,
That
you
was
needed
like,
something else, right?
yeah, that was like, you got to wake up, bro.
Mhm.
Like you got to do something about this. This is not you. You're not meant for this. You're meant for something else, something greater. So I made a decision at that point that was never going to happen. And I have to crawl my way out of this hole and find my way back to like the person that I know that I am.
Mhm.
And that started the journey. That was in 2013. So 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Which I eventually named my business Odyssey Health because that's what it became, was this epic journey back to like health for me. And, it started with what I knew, which was the body. I studied pre-physical therapy in school, but abandoned that to go make films, and because I didn't want to be pigeonholed. Like, if you know me, anybody out there that knows me knows that I'm kind of a rebel, and I don't like the beaten path so much.
Mhm.
I don't like things to be easy.
Right. I respect that.
Yeah,
I respect that.
I got to find my own way.
Yeah.
So I've taken this really like roundabout, like 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, going this way, that way to get to where I am today. But it's paid off
Mhm.
because through it, I don't think I ever would have discovered things like, the neurobiology of flow states
Mhm.
and how important and impactful that is to me now. I'm so passionate about chasing flow and how that gives people meaning and purpose in their life.
Mhm.
And then the other great, amazing thing that I don't know if I would have found if I would have taken a traditional path was applied neurology and the intentional assessment and training of the nervous system and the brain. That healed my chronic pain within, not even joking, 3 weeks of starting to learn the material and apply it. 20 years of chronic pain gone, and we can get into that because it's so powerful. It's what I do now.
Mhm.
I coach people in applied neurology and flow states. And had I taken a traditional path or not, just followed my curiosities and done what, felt right and worked for me, I never would have stumbled upon those things
Yeah.
or taken the leap into like a year-long education on applied neurology. And I don't think I ever would have became a personal trainer.
Mhm.
It was kind of out of necessity back then because I was still making films and bartending, and I moved to Scottsdale from LA. And I didn't realize, I should have realized, but I didn't realize that golf courses are not a great place to bartend at in the summer.
You learned that one the hard way, huh?
I did learn that the hard way as I was standing there for like 4 days in a row, just
Yeah.
like twiddling my
Sweating your
thumbs,
balls off.
sweating. Yeah. I was like, wow, okay, I need to make a change real
Mhm.
quick because I'm going to be broke here in a second. So the gym that we had just started going to, Lifetime Fitness down here,
Mhm.
I became friendly with one of the managers down there, and she's like, "Why don't you just get a job here?
Mhm.
You know how to work out." I was like, "Yeah, just be a personal trainer. It's easy." So I was like, "All right." No certification, no nothing. Just started there, and very quickly started working with a guy who had just been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and wonderful human being, like in his 60s, a veterinarian who was just like in a place where he was not a real big exerciser or anything, but just the nicest man from North Carolina. And he was really scared, and I was really scared. I'm like, I can't help this guy. He's got Parkinson's.
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
Right. I'm not
I don't even have a
qualified. Right. I'm
certification.
not qualified.
And one of my mentors, which this is a huge theme in my life, like the right mentors at the right time
Mhm.
that say the perfect thing. I mean, like, I can't even tell you how, when I think about it, how much gratitude I have for these people, um, that are just there at the right time to say the perfect thing. And he's like, he just said it in his no nonsense way. My mentor, his name is Chris. He's like, dude, you're working out. What's the worst that's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Like, in a way, like, man up a little bit.
Right.
Like, just go help him.
Right.
You're gonna be fine. And I was like, oh, okay. It gave me permission to at least try.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like I do, like, if I'm like backed into a corner a little bit or feel that way, I'm gonna fight. Right. And so the fight for this was like, I'm gonna learn everything I can about Parkinson's tonight.
Yeah. I love
Right.
it. Cramming for a test.
Yeah. Because I gotta help this guy tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I did. I dove into a lot of research, and I had somewhere to start, and we did, we did some things, and they really helped him a lot. In the three months was all we really spent together. At that initial time, he had dropped his medication, cut it in half, in that time, which is a pretty big deal
Yeah.
for Parkinson's. So that experience was a catalyst for me. It's like, wow, that was really rewarding. I'm still dealing with chronic pain all the time
Right.
and haven't figured that out yet. But this kind of like helping people like this is really cool. And, Cole, one of your producers, and I were talking before we jumped on about he's coaching football,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a football guy. I love football and everything it's done for me. And he said something that was so powerful, that he loves the game because it's like a never ending pursuit of mastery. That's so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that describes flow states really well. Something that is autotelic in nature, like you'll do it just for the sake of doing it. And it's something that you can chase forever, and there's no end. It's an infinite game.
Mm-hmm.
That's brain science for me. That's space exploration. That's, these things that you can continually get better at forever.
Yeah.
Those are great things to hold on to, right? And now I saw that with this. I was like, wow, this could be a long and very powerful and fruitful journey that I can continue to chase mastery at. Like this could be my craft.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of saw that for the first time. I didn't really see it as much with film. This wasn't, I mean, I think I was doing it for the wrong reasons initially, but anyway, long story longer. These days, the applied neurology, which is a little bit more recent in my, career, so to speak, is what's really unlocked everything for me. That in conjunction with flow states and positive psychology and the framework of understanding that what I always say is if you make flow the goal, the outcome takes care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
If we chase flow instead of money or the W or whatever, you're going to enjoy it a hell of a lot more.
Absolutely.
You're going to be present with what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the outcome will take care of itself because flow states, by definition, are accessing your peak performance.
Mm-hmm.
You can't perform any better,
Mm-hmm.
right? Oftentimes you're performing beyond what you thought you were even capable of when you find yourself in that state. So if you chase the state, it's going to be a lot more smooth sailing for everything in your life.
Yeah.
So
No, it's wild because I heard something recently too, where it was like, if your goal is the experience, right? If your goal is the adventure, if your goal is whatever, then you're never disappointed. We have all of these expectations of what we want to do in all of these specific areas. And it's talks to the same thing of just the flow, right?
Mhm.
Get in the flow, do your part, enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
That's my whole vibe of if something sparks you, right? When you had that moment where it was like, ooh, this interests me. I'm going to start digging into this. Doesn't matter where it takes you.
Mhm.
Get in, just get in, right? Get in, do the
Yeah.
thing that sparks you, because I think that that's what makes us collectively better when each person is doing whatever it is that is their purpose. Do you feel like you're
100%.
doing your purpose right now?
Every day I grow in that.
Yeah.
And in the flow coaching world, we talk about purpose and fulfillment, these from a neurological lens, and how we can, because purpose by definition is innately rewarding, and it's intrinsically driven.
Mhm.
It's you're not chasing extrinsic rewards, right? And there's a big difference there in terms of motivation. That intrinsic drive is when you get those stacked up and aligned, you get motivation for free. You don't need to worry about motivation
Yeah.
anymore. Um, for better or worse, you might work 100 hours a week
Right.
because you're so driven,
Right.
right? I have to do this thing, right? That purpose is just like unyielding, right? There's a conversation there about balance and everything else,
Mhm.
um, but we don't want for motivation at that point, which is such a huge problem for people these days.
Yeah.
And it's a very simple recipe for finding purpose in terms of neurobiology. And it starts with curiosity.
Mhm.
So this is one of the first things I do with anybody that struggles with this is like, if you start with just a list of things that you're curious about, no judgments on it, just whatever sparks a little hit of dopamine, you're like, huh, that's interesting. You write it down.
Mhm.
That's going to, curiosity produces dopamine and a little bit of norepinephrine. And norepinephrine is that like focusing chemical. It's what drives our attention.
Mhm.
So those two things they're driving all of our behavior, like from a very fundamental level.
Mhm.
Like seeking novelty, ooh, that's new. You get a little dopamine, right? If you hear a sound, you get a little norepinephrine that's like, I got to pay attention. What is that, right? So very fundamental things that we can leverage. And so if you start with curiosity, that's great. You can dabble with all sorts of different things. When you start to marry or overlap certain curiosities, then you start to grow in passion, right? Like my curiosity for corrective exercise and working out, and then the curiosity about the nervous system and Parkinson's, like these neurodegenerative things. And, then the curiosity around behavior change and how does the mind work psychologically? Like, how do we help people, right? They start to build upon each other. Um, and then you start to develop passion.
Mhm.
Passion is great because we get more dopamine, more norepinephrine, and we start to build that up. But passion can be a little selfish sometimes, right? You can be totally absorbed in video games and passionate about them, but get lots of flow, by the way. But that's not really serving anybody or yourself. You could argue maybe that, well,
We won't argue. I co-sign what you're saying. Yes.
I have family members that are like almost professional video game players, and
Yeah.
it's a little different. But on the whole, in general, some passions can be selfish. How we get beyond that and start to add in more powerful neurochemicals like oxytocin is when we make it about something bigger than ourselves.
Mhm.
And that's where we start to get to the realm of purpose.
Mhm.
Shortcut is just have triplets. That's like a shortcut to many things.
Yeah.
All right, like for better or worse. But I've been on a search for finding meaning and purpose for a long time
Mhm.
because I lost a lot of my identity after sports ended, quote unquote,
Mhm.
which now I understand it never ended. And I'll be an athlete forever
Right.
because that is who I am.
Mhm.
I distanced myself from that because I thought that because I wasn't competing at a high level like I was, that I was no longer that person, which is just silly.
Mhm.
It's just silly. But I went on this journey to find purpose now because that was all kind of baked in, right? I was part of a team. There was something greater than ourselves that we were chasing. And there was a great passion and curiosity and all the things. It was all wrapped up in there. And that was gone. So I had to find something new. And I started to find it in helping people and helping myself. And all those were pretty good. They're pretty good. But it is kind of a little cliche, but it's kind of baked into our biology that when you do have kids, here you go. Purpose for free.
Purpose for free.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Your life isn't going to magically fix itself. Nobody's coming to save you. But you can learn how to save yourself. That's what this book is. It's a no BS guide to stop outsourcing your happiness, stop making excuses, and start living with purpose. If you're tired of waiting for someday, consider this your wake-up call. Someday is today. Get your copy of the Life Hack Playbook on Amazon or on the podcast website, letsgetnakedpodcast.com. When did you get to a point of kind of recognizing that vulnerability wasn't a weakness? You know, you talk about going to LA and kind of being at this point. Like, was that during the time when you kind of realized, okay, I've got to get my shit together. I have to kind of lean into these things that maybe I was programmed with that were weaknesses that you realize are not, right? Obviously, you realize that now, but
Yeah.
where was that kind of awareness for you? Where did that begin?
It actually began much, much earlier, but I dismissed it.
Mm.
I was always told that I was a great listener when I was young. I was always one to ask questions and try to understand people. And I had a way of doing that that was me sharing my misunderstanding or my lack of knowledge. And so there were hints of like me being vulnerable, and I was okay with that when I was younger, but I think it was kind of in some ways beaten out of me. But I knew that I had that kind of uh power, so to speak, from a young age. And back then I thought of it more as, and it is a little bit of this too, but more of empathy and like being able to connect with people. And there were numerous times in my sports career, like I was elected the captain of almost every team that I was on. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because I had an ability to connect with people and other men, especially, that I think maybe it wasn't. It was one of those like invisible skills, where you don't know that you have it. You think everybody has it,
Yeah.
but it's actually something that it's innate. You're kind of born with it. Maybe it's just baked into your genes, and so you don't think it's weird or out of the ordinary. But I had this ability to connect with some of the players, and there was a few instances of players that were like really in a tough spot. They're having trouble, getting playing time. They've been working their ass off. And I see that. And I see they're in a really tough spot. And so I go over there and just it doesn't take a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like vulnerability can be just sitting with somebody and like giving them space.
Holding space for people is a huge,
Yeah.
huge.
And so there were numerous times where I'd have a buddy that is going through something on the field, in the locker room, and everybody's gone. There was one specific time that really comes to mind because him and I are still like very, very close friends. And this is one of the reasons why. He tells me this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, because when he was feeling his worst and everybody's just like walking by him. And because nobody knows what to do or what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like walked up to him and just sat next to him.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
And he just like eventually just like started crying. And then I put my hand on his back. Still didn't say a single word to him. And then eventually, after 2 or 3 minutes, he like came up, looked me in the eyes, and just said thank you.
Yeah.
And that was it. It didn't need to be any more than that. I didn't need to say anything. I didn't know what the fuck I was going to say anyway.
Well, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's so funny that you say that because I hear, people that don't understand holding space or maybe don't know how to do that for other people because they say, I don't know what to say. If somebody important died in your friends' lives and you're like, I didn't reach out because I didn't know what to say. And it's like, reach out, first of all. And the bigger the issue is, the fewer words you need to
Mm,
say,
yeah,
right? Just holding space, just literally being there in the presence of that person and allowing them to feel the emotions, not judging it, not feeling like you need to say anything. So when you talk about sitting for a few minutes, like 2 or 3 minutes probably feels like forever in that
yeah,
situation,
it
right?
does, yeah,
But how powerful that was for that man
yeah,
who still remembers that,
mhm,
so really understanding that that human connection means everything to people.
yeah,
Obviously, he still remembers it. It's still something that's a base of your friendship. I really encourage people to like lean into the discomfort of that
yeah,
because you would want someone to do the same thing for you.
exactly,
And that's how we fix a lot of the problems that we have going on in our society is just
mhm,
literally being able to have a human connection and hold space for someone else that's going through tough stuff. It's not trying to figure out how to not have tough stuff. This is life. Like it's messy, it's hard,
mhm,
it is, but being able to be there for one another without saying anything. We don't need to say a thing, that's pretty wild.
I think my words would have just muddled it up and
Yes.
made it worse.
Yeah, just let that man have his
Yeah,
moment of thinking the things that he needs to and just be okay with that. Do you feel like did you have an example with your dad or did you have siblings growing up?
I have one younger brother,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you have like during your childhood, was there examples of emotions that were shown by him or other men in your life, or was that definitely still part of the culture of like, we don't do that?
It was part of the culture, but I also my dad was actually a fantastic role model in this,
Mm-hmm.
not because he was perfect,
Yeah.
but because I saw him struggle with it too
Mm-hmm.
and overcome it at times and sometimes not.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was able to get to that place of vulnerability, especially after my parents split. He was much more he put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
And like that was huge. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, as a role model, um, he really tried.
Yeah.
And us boys were not helpful.
Right. Yeah, boys are a whole different animal for
Yeah,
sure, but it's excellent that he did try, right?
he
Being
did.
able to show that, being able to do that and not have this I think a lot of people in our parents' generation where we don't talk about things, right? We push things under the rug. It's shameful to show that people are struggling or whatever. And it's like, no, we need to see that.
Yeah.
And being able to be strong enough to be that example for you is really powerful.
Mhm.
You know, you have three kiddos now. I'm assuming that that's something that will be important as they get older. It sounds like they're
For sure.
small still, where you're maybe not getting full night's sleep.
They're 18 months,
Okay.
and we I don't know what happened, but we won the jackpot,
Yeah.
both the fertility jackpot
Yeah.
and also with 3 kids that sleep through the night,
Oh, nice.
number 1. To be fair, we hired a night nurse.
Yeah.
The blessing about having triplets is that with 1, you think you can control everything, and so many parents try to,
Hmm.
and I see it so much now, and I'm like, "Man, I'm so glad we don't have that option,"
Hmm.
because I see it backfire a lot, with kids that, can't be anywhere, like, 2 feet from their mom,
Yeah.
won't even go to their dad,
Yeah.
or, just struggle, or, they've been and I'm not trying to, like, say right or wrong, but they end up co-sleeping with the kid, and so now the kid can't sleep unless you're there. Um, Lots of these little things that, science I put that in quotes because I was talking to a parent the other day about sleep training, and our kids were sleeping 12 hours by 12 weeks.
Hmm.
We hired a night nurse. She was fantastic, right? They were also in the NICU for 2 months.
Right.
So they were on a very regimented schedule. And man, our lives are a lot easier when they're on that schedule and they stick to it.
Yeah.
And like the ability to get sleep for 8 hours, maybe they wake up, need a pacifier here and there,
Sure.
but that's no big deal.
Yeah, that's a dream.
I mean, how much of an effect does that have on your life? Like, I'm a health coach and a brain guy. I know how much of an effect that does. my wife is a marriage and family therapist. Like, she knows psychologically how much that strain can be put on you if you don't sleep. So just that by itself, like, I know I'm biased, but
Yeah.
that's the blessing of having 3 is that you have to surrender.
Yeah.
You let go
100%.
of that control or you go insane.
I think it's better in life just to surrender anyways, right? Like you talk about
Stay in the flow of it.
stay in the flow, right?
Yeah.
You talk about like finding your purpose. And when you talk about you could work 100 hours a week and it doesn't matter. That's a beautiful place to be. You know,
Yeah.
I have as much value that I put on a Sunday as I do on a Tuesday. And I think that that's master level shit for life because just being at a place where you understand that I'm doing what I feel like my higher purpose is, and whatever I need to throw at that is what I throw at that. And it doesn't make it feel like work. It makes it feel like, you know, you have this challenge, or when you're talking about figuring your stuff out in 3 steps forward and 4 steps back and whatever, your route is going to be different no matter what. And it
Mhm.
literally is like following breadcrumbs, you know, or being on a scavenger hunt of
Mhm.
figuring out who Brandon is. And that's a lifelong situation, right?
Yep.
Because it's like you've figured out where you want to be right now, and then that changes. I feel like I've lived multiple lives in this one lifetime. And my biggest accomplishment is getting on that journey of figuring out who Anne is, because I spent a lot of years just numbing and pushing down. You know, when you talk about pouring booze or drugs or, you know, whatever on top of who you are, that's not a way to live, as you know. I mean, I think everyone that has been on the other side will tell you that, which if you're
Yeah.
listening, that's everything you need to know is there's not a single person who comes out the other side and goes, you know what, I think I'm going to go back in. Like, zero people have I talked to that say that. Like, nah,
That's
I'd rather
true.
be pushing everything down and numbing on top of it. Like, no, I'd rather have my eyes opened and understand what it is that I'm dealing with. Did you feel like you ever got to a place where, aside from the time when you were kind of in LA and felt like you were really struggling, that you felt like, God, this is too much. I don't want to do this? Did you get to those places in your journey
Sure.
where it was just like, I can't. Like, this is
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, I don't wanna give the impression that, like, once I made that decision, then it was just, like,
Yeah,
follow the yellow brick road
sure.
and it was all roses,
Yeah.
and no, it was not. The substance abuse didn't go away, I was still numbing. I just made the decision to start the path,
Yeah.
but it was a long
Right.
journey, and, you made me think about because booze was a big part of it, and
Hmm.
in Montana you're from South Dakota, so you
Yes, you
know,
can. That's
it's a
true.
big part of the culture. Like, it just is.
Hmm.
Moving to LA, I just carried that with me, and you'll find who you wanna find in LA,
100%.
for sure. When I moved over here to, Scottsdale, and then I've been kind of around the valley in different places, and really when I got into, this new family dynamic with my wife, um, they're Italians from Long Island,
Mm.
and they don't really drink. And I was like, "This is weird. You guys don't, like, pound booze
Yeah.
at every gathering?
Yeah.
What is
What is that?
what's wrong with you?"
Yeah, exactly. What does that mean?
So that was kind of like a first interesting, kinda eye-opening experience, but, regardless, to your question, there was a point where, I just man, every year on the anniversary, I do, like, a social media post
Hmm.
about, sobriety because I quit drinking. This is year 10 for me, and this last one, I posted a picture of the triplets because as I was reflecting on it, the night that I quit, um, I was single because I came home in a drunken rage and blamed all my problems on my wife, and I broke up with her. I was like, kicked her out of the house. And
Hmm.
like, you're everything that's wrong.
Yeah.
Uh, and then like I went over, I let her stay at the house. I went over to my brother's house to just like sleep it off so she could pack her shit and get out.
Hmm.
And at some point during the night, like I had another one of those like epiphanies. It was like, no, dude, I think you're the problem. And so I went back. Um, and the waterworks started, and I was
Hmm.
like, I'm so sorry. Like, I made a huge mistake. Um, like, essentially, will you give me another chance? Uh, and she didn't give me an ultimatum or anything. I offered that I would get help. And so I did see a therapist for a while,
Mhm.
and that was great. But the real change was that I quit drinking,
Mhm.
and I gave myself, at first I was like, I'll do it for a month,
Mhm.
and but I knew like that next day I was done.
Yeah.
And people ask me all the time, "How did you do that? Do you ever want to go back? Do you ever get tempted?" Yes, sometimes on a summer day when it's hot
Mhm.
and I'm like at the brewery, with my brother and we're all just hanging out. Man, like a cold IPA or something sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
But not good enough to go back to that,
Yeah.
right? And when people ask me the question of like, because I've had numerous people that struggle with it
Mhm.
and have tried to quit or whatever else, and I feel so bad because I don't have a good answer.
Right.
Because for me, it was a switch that flipped. Now, like nicotine, that's a different animal,
Right.
and that was so hard to
Yeah.
quit, but eventually did that, and I actually have a decent method that I think would help a lot of people, but, um, the alcohol thing was just like, "Nope, I'm done."
Yeah. When you realize, you know, the accountability component of it is huge. I think understanding that.
She quit too,
Right.
so the solidarity there,
Yeah.
oh my god,
Yeah.
like, I don't know
Huge.
if I coulda done it if she continued to drink, and
Yeah.
not that she was a big
No,
drinker,
that's a
but
that's a rough one. Trust me, I know. My husband still drinks, and it's been 9 years for me. And he's,
nice.
that's a. I think once you get to this place of taking accountability, because for me, I realized I was the one that was causing all my own suffering.
Yeah,
When you get to that place where you're like, all of the things that are the problems are the things that I'm doing when I'm drinking, or the time that I'm spending, or if you realize and you think about how much time, energy, money, all of the things go into getting that drink,
mhm,
it's that's exhausting and disgusting to look at. And then you realize that it's not actually adding value to your life as well. That's a pretty big deal.
yeah,
But you look at that and you say, okay, it's been 10 years for you. Of course you wouldn't go back. You look at how amazing your life is now as, compared to that. There's no value associated with that. And I
yeah,
think we're at a place in our society now where, if you go out with and people are like, "Why don't you drink?" It's like, let's stop doing that. Just as a society,
sure,
right? Let's
yeah,
stop saying, "Why don't you drink?" Well, I always turn it around. Why do you drink?
yeah,
It never added value for me, right? I'm poisoning myself and causing my own problems. I want a better life. That's why I don't drink. But being able to look at that from that standpoint, I think, is really huge. The accountability piece and saying, it's not somebody else. That's not what this life is. It's not, there's no power in victimhood as far as like, oh, woe is me. All of these things are
mhm,
happening to me. Um, no, boss, you're doing all that shit to yourself.
yeah,
And there's power in that. There's power in being able to realize that.
yeah. It's hard. It's hard to, like, have somebody hold that mirror up to you,
Yeah.
which is what you're doing
Yes.
by choosing not to drink.
Yeah.
You're holding that mirror up to them, and they have to confront why they do,
Yeah.
and that can be hard. And so in this post, like, the reason I brought that up, because one of the things I said in there was, I used to think about all the things that I was losing, and I did lose some friends.
Sure, of course.
Um, I don't get invited to things as much when there's a bunch of alcohol involved, and they're, looking out for me a little bit, but, yeah, for some of them, there's also that mirror aspect of it.
Yeah.
But holy shit, what did I gain?
Yeah.
Again, I put the picture of the triplets
Mhm.
because that doesn't happen
Right.
if I continue to drink.
Well, and even just being willing to having the sack to make a pros and cons list.
Yeah,
What is alcohol bringing into your life? And I like to jump up on my soapbox every once in a while about the alcohol, and also let people do whatever they want to do, because it's not my
sure.
job to tell other people what to do. But I
Yeah.
will tell you that my life prior to quitting drinking and my life after quitting drinking, there's no contest. There's no contest.
Yeah.
The when you're wrapped up in booze and you're just numbing on top of stuff, you're literally on what feels like a hamster wheel.
Mhm.
of just your own fucking problems and causing your own suffering and like the next drink and whatever that looks like, you have no self-awareness whatsoever. You don't have time for that. It's literally just
Yeah.
numbing
Mhm.
on top of things. What did it look like for you when you decided to stop numbing? Was that something that I'm assuming you went through with your wife as well, as she was, not drinking as well, or was she not really a heavy drinker, or what did that look like?
Yeah, she was never a heavy drinker, so it wasn't really much of an issue for her, but I will say that just again, like the decision back in 2013 to get my shit together, clearly I didn't get all my shit together, right?
Sure.
It took a few more years. I think it was 3.5 years later, then I stopped drinking. So another inflection point. But again, it was not it didn't cure all my ailments,
Sure.
right? It didn't fix my chronic pain. It didn't cure my mental health issues, right?
Hmm.
But it allowed me the space to work on it, and it forced me to start to confront some of those things. So, and by the way, you know, what's the saying? It was California sober.
Mm, yeah.
Like I still used cannabis daily. I still was l- just pounding nicotine down,
Yeah.
which I started from a young age, and I used some other substances to help me with the as I didn't want to sit in a hole and do nothing
Yeah.
to wait for like the the temptations to go away or anything like that. So actually, and I'm not recommending this to anyone. I never would recommend this to anyone, but I used things like MDMA
Hmm.
when I'm out at a bar with a bunch of people. Um, because I am like otherwise I would have been super anxious and I wouldn't go out with people and I also
Mm.
didn't want to do that. Again, I'm not saying that's right for people to do. Uh maybe there was a better way for me to do it, but the 2 or 3 times that I did that in the months after actually really helped me a lot.
Hmm.
And I can point to a bunch of studies about on like veterans and the use of MDMA assisted therapy and all that stuff. My wife's a therapist, but no, we were not doing therapy with MDMA. No,
Right,
I
right.
just like went
There's
out.
there's a difference, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
doing it for fun and doing it for therapy, very different situations, but
I thought about it kind of in like a therapeutic lens.
mhm.
Like this is going to be not a solvent, but a buffer
Mm,
a little bit. That's going to get me out there and like a very small dose. Like I'm not
right,
rolling at a rave,
right.
right? But it's enough to give me a little bit of social lubricant, which is what I used alcohol for.
Mhm.
Um, that to me really helped in those moments. Again, there's other ways to do it,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not condoning it at all. But for me, I think it really got me over that initial hump.
Mhm.
And then I was like, all right, I can drink, I can go out and not drink
Yeah.
and still have fun and still do the things. And then once you do that a couple times and you start to see a bunch of people getting drunk around you, then you're like,
Sure.
oh,
Oh,
these people are
it's
morons.
so funny to me
It's
because I agree
hilarious.
with you 1,000%. It's like all you have to do is just get a little bit of perspective,
Yeah.
Go ahead and just not drink for a couple weeks or a month or whatever that looks like, and then watch a bunch of idiots get drunk, and it's like, no, thank you. Like it's
Yeah.
not. I don't look at it and go like, oh, I wish I would do that. And also realizing what you're gaining instead of what you're losing.
Yeah. So
Um,
now I'll go out and watch people get drunk, and I
yeah,
think it's funny
yeah.
until it's not, and then I
And then you
leave and
get to
go home
sleep, right?
early. Yeah.
Exactly.
But also, I say this all the time, like I dance way more now sober than I
Mm,
ever did drunk
yeah.
because it would take me 4 or 5 drinks to get up the courage to go out and dance
Hmm.
and then probably look like a total moron, which is whatever. I don't care.
Right.
Like any more
We
of these
all do
days.
dancing. It's fine.
I
Yeah.
I
Right.
I love
Shake
to
your.
look like an
Yeah.
idiot,
Me too.
especially with my kids. Like,
That's awesome.
but now my wife and I are like we're the first ones on the dance floor
Yeah.
because we just love to dance and
Hmm.
it's a good time,
Hmm.
and we don't give a shit what anybody else thinks because we know they're just thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
That's all.
People get in their heads a lot where they're so worried about what other people think, and what people should realize is everyone else is living their own big lives as well. They don't give a shit what you're doing, right? Like, don't get twisted up in what other people think. Also, who cares?
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody where text messaging is such a tricky thing because if you don't know somebody, or even if you do, you can take something out of context, or it doesn't
Mhm.
seem like, what was your intention, and like all of the things. And I was telling them, I just assume everybody's coming from a good place with every text that they send me because I'm the
Best
one
way.
holding the fucking paintbrush.
Yeah,
And I'm an
exactly.
adult. You know what I mean? Like I get to pick how I want to receive that. That's your
Yeah,
choice. So don't we do it to ourselves? We cause our own suffering.
yeah,
You mentioned something about having a good way to stop nicotine, and I'm dying for you to share that. Mainly because I have one of my daughters has been struggling with cigarettes for a long time, and I smoked for a
yeah.
long time. I started smoking when I was a teenager, and I didn't stop until I was 29. So
Alright.
I loved to smoke, like
Yeah,
really,
me
really
too.
loved to smoke. So share the trick with the listeners so that if anyone out there is struggling, that they have
It
whatever your trick
This
is.
might not be super satisfying for everybody, but damn did it work for me. I had to go so I went and spent during COVID, um, my gym got shut down, and I kinda lost everything, and we were like, "Well, might as well go to Montana and spend the summer there instead of staying here and doing nothing and baking for 3 months." So I was in a totally new environment, which I think is really important
Hmm.
because it severs you from all of your habits and all the little rituals and triggers. So that right there, like if you can do that, amazing.
Hmm.
And I think that was key. The other thing I did was I went into the woods backpacking with a couple of my buddies for 4 days.
Hmm.
And I didn't bring anything with me. So I was like, you're going through it, bud.
Bold move. I
Yeah.
mean, bold move.
I also ate a bunch of psilocybin mushrooms.
Well, okay, good to know.
Okay. So
I love it.
hard reset
Yeah.
there, along with no access to nicotine for
Hmm.
4 days. And then I came back to an environment where I didn't have any of the triggers. And, you're over the physical addiction within 72
Yeah.
hours.
Hmm.
So then it's just the triggers
Hmm.
and the habits. And in a new environment like that, I could be aware of the craving. And then because I'm in a new environment, there's no automatic like reach for the cigarette or the
Hmm.
vape or whatever. So it kind of just bred a little bit more awareness because of the novelty of the environment.
Hmm.
So I say that's not very, that might not be helpful for a lot of people because they're like, well, when the hell am I going to do that? It's like, I don't
Where do I
know.
get psilocybin? Where is
Well,
the hills of the Montana? Like the combination is a little bit unique, but
it is unique, but I don't know. I mean, sometimes you got to take extreme measures.
yeah. Well, and I agree. For me, it was like, okay, I had to really reset my mind to say I'm not a smoker anymore. And
Yeah,
and when you've smoked for, at that point I had smoked more of my years alive than years not by the time I quit. And so it is, it really it's a big mental game, not just the physical addiction, but
100%.
our brains are powerful tools, and you
Oh,
can use it
incredible.
for you or against you. And so being able to just say, I'm not a smoker anymore, right? And interrupting the pattern, and I'm not a smoker anymore. I think those are really big things. But also,
Hmm.
you're the direct benefactor of you improving your life, whether it's
Yeah.
quitting drinking, quitting smoking, getting in tune with yourself, or whatever that looks like. You're the one that benefits from it. So
Hmm.
many people are really want to ride that victim train pretty hard. Okay, but you're the architect of your own life, and
Yeah.
you want to build a life that's shit because you're the one, again, that's holding the paintbrush. So
Yeah,
you know figure out if that's what you want, and then go ahead and ride that one if you'd like, but there's a better way.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does your one of the things I'd like to talk about is, how would your 8-year-old version see who you are? Like what would that look like? And your 80-year-old version.
Mm,
So for me, I say, I look back at that 8-year-old girl. I'm trying to get back to that because I think that whatever that number is for you, right? That the innocent child, the one that dreamed about things
yeah.
and had big goals, and like didn't have all of the slime that kind of gets put on top of you.
Mhm.
What would that version of you think about this version of you today? And then also, on the other side of that, what does the 80-year-old look like? You know?
Yeah. I think they both would, in their own way, think or say the same thing, which is like, about time.
Yeah.
It's about time that you start getting back to, like you said, that
Mm-hmm.
like 8-year-old version.
Mm-hmm.
And my journey has been like all leading towards this,
Mm-hmm.
and I credit a lot of that to like flow states and the pursuit of that. But having my kids really kick that into high gear.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say it like this: like flow states are total absorption in the moment, so much so that everything else falls away.
Mm-hmm.
Time goes away, your sense of self vanishes. Effortless effort, and it's an enriching and super enjoyable experience. It's a peak experience. If you want to see somebody in flow all the time, watch a kid
Yes.
play.
Yes.
They don't give a shit
Agreed.
about
That's why I'm
anything.
trying to get back to that. I'm telling you, I couldn't agree with you more. I
Yeah,
think that that's like coming from that sense of awe and wonder that you had as like an
exactly.
8-year-old kid, like you said, watching them and just they don't give a shit who's watching. If they want to be friends with somebody, they just go up to him and be like, "Hey, you want to be friends?" It doesn't matter what color they are, what socioeconomic
Yep,
status everybody is. It's like, let's be friends.
yeah,
So leaning into more of the things that the 8-year-old would do, I'm
exactly.
highly all about that.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
getting in the flow.
That's exactly right. That's what my, 8-year-old self would say. It's like, "Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you're finally letting shit go.
Yeah.
Like, let's go play."
Not worried about all the stuff that gets,
Yeah.
dumped on top of the 8-year-old.
And my 80-year-old self would be like, "Nice, dude.
Yeah,
Finally getting back to that.
yeah,
Like, let the shit go. Have some fun.
yeah.
Like,
I like that.
life is short."
I
Like,
like the idea that we're putting things out there that would make our 80-year-old selves proud.
yeah.
Everything I touch, I leave better than I found it. That's my mission. you
Love it.
know I think it's important, and I think once you kind of get out of your own ego, right, there's a lot of things that you talked about at the beginning that very much feed your ego, the stuff where it's like the accomplishments in the football and the Sports Illustrated cover and like
Mhm.
just all of the different things, but then when that stops, egos are fragile.
Mm.
That's the bitch about egos,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And kind of the emotional intelligence that goes into, building our egos. And if we don't have that, falls away, that's a pretty scary place to be.
Mhm.
Um, but wow, I love that. Will you tell our listeners how to find you? Because if they're interested in learning more about the flow state, or kind of figuring out what it is that looks like, and I
Yeah.
totally co-sign on all of that. I agree with you 1,000%. When you're in flow, you are present right now. None of that
Mhm.
shit matters. It just falls away and you're just living kind of what I call my best life. If you
Yeah.
ask me, how's my day? I'm living the best day of my life right now. Like every
Yeah.
day is that. So
Yeah.
tell us how to
And
find you.
it should be said too on flow is like, um, the ability to connect with another human being
Yes.
is wildly heightened in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you want to talk about energy or nervous systems or whatever, like if we can find flow together, we're on the same frequency.
Yes.
We are like in it,
Yes.
right? And that's magical.
Highly recommend. That's
Yeah.
where magic lives. I believe
Yeah.
that 1,000%. That is where magic lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can follow me on Instagram at I am Brandon Day. Um, I have a school community that's SKOOL, called Evolved Athlete, where I share a lot around getting out of chronic pain and reaching flow states in your best performance using the principles and the neurobiology of flow, positive psychology, these type of things with the flow framework. But it is underpinned with all of my knowledge and expertise in applied neurology. So training your visual system, your
Mm-hmm.
vestibular system, your breathing, and your movement, right? I'm a strength and conditioning guy and athlete at heart. So a lot of it, I'm all about moving the body and all of the benefits that come with that. So from a neurological lens, that's where we build that up. So school.com/evolved is where you can find me there. It's a free community with lots of free resources in there, as well as some paid programs and my one-on-one coaching stuff. So those are my two. That's where I spend most of my time:
Excellent.
Instagram and school.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for coming and spending time with me today. And
yeah,
and getting naked and sharing all of the things.
Thank you,
So,
ma'am.
yeah,
Pleasure.
absolutely. So, that's our time for today. If you have questions, suggestions, or think you have a story to add and want to be on the podcast, send us an email. Our email address is ladies@letsgetnakedpodcast.com, or you can DM us, do all the things to support the pod so that we can continue to do this important work. Follow, share, rate, and review. We will catch you next time. That's a wrap.